Hello, everyone. It is my greatest privilege to be busting out some myths with you guys this afternoon or morning in some places, depending on where you are. So I'm quite pumped for that. Our topic today will be on BA. So in other words, we are going to be busting out all the myths about the business analyst, and it's going to have a mix of introductory level as well as some advanced levels. So some assumed knowledge and some intro knowledge. So let's see where you guys are at with that. Today's webinar is a very interactive webinar. In other words, that you guys will be doing lots as well. So not just me talking the whole time, but for you guys to also do a little bit of clicking and a little bit of participation with me. So without further ado, I'm going to start kicking off. We're going to start a little bit about business analysts. What are we talking about here today? Why we all gathered around into a 1-hour session on this. So I want to first talk about the IRBA. This stands for the International Institute of Business Analysis. This is the professional association for business analysts. So just like you may have heard of the PMI for project managers, this is the equivalent for business analysts. There is an IRBA association which is international, and they've come up with the BABOK, the Business Analysis Body of Knowledge. A lot of what I'll be referring to today will be based on the BABOK, and the BABOK currently is version 3 of the BABOK, and I will go through some of the definitions coming out of what the BABOK states. And a BOK, for most of you that is aware of what a BOK is, but for a BOK is a body of knowledge. In other words, it's just professional associations where over the years, everyone's come together and they've said, these are the terms, these are the references, this is what we believe in the industry at this point in time is most relevant to BAs. So putting all that together, this is a big book, as you can see, that orange book on the left. That is what the body of knowledge looks like right now, and it constantly gets updated because industry does change. So you always want to stay updated with the latest BOK, and this is the BABOK. What we are going to just quickly talk about is a little bit of the history when it comes to business analysis and how it came about. So back in the very early, so back in the early 20th century, Frederick Taylor was a scientist who first came up with a scientific method on how to improve processes. He would actually go around carrying his little timer, and he'll time every single process to go, how can we make this more efficient? How can we make this more effective? How can we time it so that you can get from point A to point B even quicker? Okay, so that's where it started with the whole, how are we going to analyze the information and how we're going to improve it. So a little bit of that problem solving, a little bit of that improvement. So Frederick Taylor was the first one to come up with a little bit of that, and he documented everything, and he wrote about how can you improve processes. And as the computer age came about in the 1970s, you'll see in the top right-hand corner the original, back in the days, the computers, those lovely big ones over there. That's when you had system analysts and program analysts starting to emerge. And what these are people who look at how a process can be improved, but more technology-centric, using computers, using technology, using IT systems. How can we improve a process, in particular using the computer age? They called that back then with the introduction of the computer age. And now, as we start to move into more of a collaborative era, what we look at more these days is how we can work together. How can we include all those analytical skills into our everydays? Okay, how can everybody also do a little bit of that analysis, that business analysis, a little bit of that system analysis? How can we include a lot of that into our everyday? So this is just a quick background of how it's all come about. So what is business analysis overall? So you hear a lot of people talking about they do business analysis, and it could be in any division in your organization, it could be of any area, it could be in any industry as well. There's not in any way, shape or form to say that has to be IT, it has to be finance, it has to be HR, etc. It is across your organization. And what business analysis looks at, and this is from the BABOK and coming out of the IRBA from the BABOK, they've got two sentences. The first one being enabling change is an enterprise buy. You want to be defining needs, recommending solutions, delivering value to stakeholders. Okay, that's one of the major points of what business analysis is after. Your end goal in business analysis is to ensure that you enable some sort of change, and should be change for the better by defining what is the current problem, okay, what could be the recommended solution, and what value to the stakeholders can we provide by doing what we're about to do. So the next part then says you want to be able to articulate needs and then a rationale for the change. Okay, describing those solutions, and again, delivering value. It's all about, if we're going to improve it, we want to make sure we're improving it for the better. Okay, and what in particular are we improving? in our right-hand side, this little simple diagram that they've got 3 areas of focus when it comes to business analysis. First part being about the organizational change. So overall, what are we in particular changing as part of, are we changing a process? Okay, are we changing the technology? What in particular are you changing? Okay, so that's the organizational change. It's mainly about also the people as well. Okay, understand that your change will also impact people. Okay, so bottom right-hand corner then says process improvement. Which process are you improving? Your as is to your to be. What are you currently looking at to that? And your bottom left being systems development. What product in particular are you going to be changing? Okay, so a lot of business analysis brings on change, but it's about defining a solution to a problem. Okay, so you've got a problem. How can we fix it for the better? And you want to analyze that from a business perspective. Okay. So we're about to start doing some myth busting. This is the part that's going to get a lot more fun over the next hour or so. And what I want to do with you guys is actually let you guys decide whether something is a myth or a truth. And we're going to do that via polling. What's going to happen for you guys is, for the people who's got their screen maximized, and that is what we recommend if you do want to have the full experience of this myth busting session, we do recommend you maximizing your complete screen, and then you'll get what's on the left-hand side, a full polling that will pop up and prompt you for your answers. And make sure when you do submit your answer, you need to color it and click on that button, submit, okay, so that way I can actually see what answers you have selected. If you've not maximized your screen, you will get it on your side panel. And to get that on your side panel, you will need to click that polling button that is on your top right, and it will expand that section of polling. Okay. As we go through each one of these statements, I will be asking you guys as to whether you think this is a myth or whether you think it is a truth. And I want you all to select whether it is a myth or truth. This is a safe learning environment. Go for your life which way you want. You can change your answers up into the 15 seconds. Everybody gets 15 seconds to make a decision, and you click submit, and we'll be going through the answers as well. So let's try out our very first one. Our very first statement that we're going to take a look at is, a business analyst and a system analyst is the same thing. Do you think this is a myth, or do you think this is a truth? So a business analyst and a system analyst is the same thing. I'll be putting 15 seconds up on the clock, and I will push up the poll to you all now. A business analyst and a system analyst is the same thing. So again, a business analyst and a system analyst is the same thing. Okay, give a few more for people to get used to, just to find out where all the buttons are, because the first one I'm sure it's going to take a little bit longer to find out where the buttons are. And I will push out some answers to you all. Okay, so I'm just waiting for everyone to submit. And we'll see what everybody selected. We have a good number of percentages coming through, lots of myths, it's tallying up. Tallying up a lot of numbers here, and okay, just to make sure you guys can all see my answers. Poll results. Okay, so it looks like percentage-wise we have a good number of 74% of you think this is a myth, and 6% of you think that this is a truth. Okay. Brilliant. So the statement was, a system analyst and a business analyst is the same thing. This is a myth. For the 74% of you, that is correct. It is a myth. And what we are looking at for a business analyst. A business analyst, according to the BABOK, again, this is the definition according to the BABOK, states that you're discovering, synthesizing, and analyzing information from a variety of sources. Okay, so it could be tools, processes, documentation, stakeholders, but it's across the organization. And what they do here is you elucidate the actual needs, you investigate it, you clarify, and you find underlying issues. The business analyst doesn't have to relate it to any particular system. It doesn't have to be any sort of technology, doesn't have to be IT, doesn't have to be a particular system that they're looking at. Where it is different for a business analyst or a system analyst, a system analyst is where you're focusing on pretty much technology. So it's pretty much a BA chucking in some IT there, okay? So you're kind of focusing more towards how can we improve this process, but from a systems perspective? If we have the technology, how can we improve the processes from that technology that we're leveraging off? How can we improve the efficiency with that technology? How can we improve how we're doing business with that technology? Okay, so the idea between a system analyst and a business analyst is business will look at overall processes to your organization. It can look at how well you're doing with a paper-based system. Okay, so it doesn't have to actually be IT itself. So you're looking at business analysts being more generic and organization-wide and looking at how is my root cause and what are some of the recommended solutions. And with a system analyst, you're pretty much just throwing the technology at it and how can we actually look at system requirements. So a lot of your requirements that you will write will be the system shall do this, the system shall do that, because you're looking at it from a systems perspective. So it could be a system analyst or a business analyst. These days, often in recruitment, there might be a mix between two. Sometimes you are applying for a business analyst role, which actually is a system analyst role, or vice versa. And often it's good to clarify some of those. Are you going to be focusing on just the technology of it and how you're improving the processes there? Or are you actually looking at organization-wide, and it can be non-technology centric? So difference between a business analyst and a systems analyst. Okay, we've got next statement that we're going to myth bust again together. Next statement we've got there is anyone can become a business analyst. Again, I'm going to open the poll to you guys. Anyone can become a business analyst, and I will put the 15 seconds up on the clock. Okay, anyone can become a business analyst. Anyone can become a business analyst. Could be quite a controversial statement here. I do know there are different people with different personalities, but we are saying anyone can become a business analyst. Okay, give you a few more seconds just to put all those answers in whilst it takes a few more seconds to generate your answers, we've got them still coming through. We've got a few more numbers coming through. Anyone can become a business analyst. You guys have said, let me push the answers out to everybody. Okay, looks like everybody thinks, majority here says 65% of you think that this is a truth. So in other words, you think that anyone can become a business analyst, and 21% of you guys said that this is a myth. With that in mind, anyone can become a business analyst. This is a truth. This is a truth. And as long as people have the right amount of training and learning on the jobs and picking up those skills, I'm not to say that anybody off the street can become a business analyst. It does take time to actually acquire the right skills and understand what they all mean. And I've put a few in front of you, which is for introductory levels, especially for people looking for a career change, if they're looking to enter the space of becoming a business analyst, where they're quite interested in perhaps problem solving, where they know that they naturally have that ability to kind of see a problem, how to make it more efficient, and then how to give a recommended solution. And if you're one of those people who think that those are where your skills are honed in on and you want a career change, one of the ones that there is top left corner there is the level 1 entry certificate in business analysis. This is one that's come out from the IRBA now. This is an internationally recognized certification from the IRBA. The IRBA has recognized that lots of people want to start coming into the business analysis world. And where could they start? They could start with an entry-level certificate. Okay, so what does it actually mean to be a BA? What are some of the skills I need? What are the competency areas and what are the non-competency areas? So competency being elicitation, requirements gathering, interview skills. So a lot of those type of core skills to a business analyst. And then there are some non-competency areas such as testing. You might have to do some testing. You might have to do some other facilitation workshops where it's not a core skill that you have to do every day, but it's still a skill that you may need. A few other ones that we do offer here also at DLS. One that we do a lot for people who kind of want to know about business analyst skill, but they kind of want to do this as a secondary job. So you might already have a day job as a change analyst. You might already have a day job as a developer or a system analyst, or you might already be a person that is looking into moving here, and there is what we call business analysis for non-BAs. So your background might not be of the BA world, but you might be interested in knowing what does that actually mean to me and how can I perhaps do that on the side. So having some analytical skills is always a benefit, considering that you want to know how do we look into a problem, how do we actually solve it, how do we actually recommend some solutions and document it and make sure that the documentation is correct and non-ambiguous and that it's clear. Another really good one for people who want to enter that space and understand how to be a BA is to go into Fast Start in Business Analysis of 3 days where you come in and do a Fast Start and understand, hey, these are some of the things that we do need to know as a BA. With the right level of training and on-the-job practice, anyone can be a BA. And you have to also then understand your strengths and your weaknesses, because some of your strengths and your weaknesses will work towards how well a BA you can be, how good a BA in particular you can hone in on. Not everybody's attention to detail, so not everybody's great with writing those pieces of documentations, but some people are really great at getting in front of a room and making those large workshops and eliciting requirements in a large workshop. So again, you have to understand strengths and weaknesses, your personality type, and get some training on how to become a BA. Okay. Number 3 statement says, business analysts are only needed or involved at the beginning of a project or piece of work, okay? So we only need you guys at the beginning, okay? So again, I'm going to open the poll up to you guys, whether you think this is a myth or whether you think this is a truth. Again, 15 seconds on the clock. Business analysts are only needed or involved at the beginning of a project or piece of work. Okay. Right. So again, business analysts are only needed or involved at the beginning of a project or piece of work. All right. I am closing this poll. Well, I'm going to push you guys out some answers, and we're going to see what you guys all thought about that one. Are business analysts only needed or involved at the beginning of a project or piece of work? Are business analysts only needed or involved at the beginning of a project or piece of work? Sometimes you may call it a project, sometimes you might call it a task, sometimes you might call it an enhancement. Organizations vary on that. The answers have come in, and it looks like 82% of you, this is a strong 82% of you, think that this is a myth. Business analysts are only needed or involved at the beginning of a project or piece of work. This is a myth. You guys are doing really well on these myth bustings. I should have made them a bit harder for you all, I think. So here, what we are looking at is whether it is a waterfall project or an agile project. There are stages to both, whether it is a waterfall or an agile project. And if we were to take a very generic example of, let's say, building a house, in a waterfall method of building a house, you would have to spend some time with me to write me my requirements document up front. You would have to tell me every single detail about my house. You have to tell me the painting, the skirting, the flooring, down to the doorknobs even, and exactly which doorknobs you want and what window sills you want. And you'll spend some months writing that requirement stock. Just because you've written that requirement stock doesn't mean that the BA then goes, job's done. So what happens is you still have to be around to make sure the build of it is actually compliant to your requirements. You're tracing it back. That traceability is very important. And when it comes to production, that it actually got built as to what the business or to your house owner that you're building me my house is actually asking for, what my requirements actually were and whether my requirements were met. So in a waterfall, it's very stage by stage, and you spend most of your time up front to do that requirements elicitation. Where if you were to do it in an agile project, you will be constantly cycling through with me, and you'll probably see me every 2 to 4 weeks. And you're doing it in smaller chunks, and you might focus on smaller periods of work. So in other words, you might come back and tell me, we're looking at the kitchen right now. Next 2 weeks, we might be looking at the bathroom. 2 weeks after that, we're looking at another bedroom. 2 weeks after that, we're looking at a study, then a living room, etc. So you then even more constant as a business analyst, if you were to be doing an agile project, will be required pretty much for the duration of the project. Okay, and again, waterfall or agile, you're not only just needed at the beginning to write a piece of documentation and hand it over. The idea is you are analyzing it, yes, coming up with the root cause, the problem, the solution, you're recommending the solution, but you ensure that what gets built and what gets deployed and what happens, even if it's a paper-based solution, whatever solution that you've agreed to, that you ensure that it actually gets built correctly and it actually meets the needs of your stakeholders. Okay. Next statement we've got there is, it is handy for a business analyst to know more modeling tools and techniques. It is handy for a business analyst to know more modeling tools and techniques. You guys know the drill, pretty much truth or a myth. It is handy for a business analyst to know more modeling tools and techniques. Okay, it is handy for a business analyst to know more modeling tools and techniques. All right, you guys are getting super quick at this, I can see. Okay, your answers, you're like doing it in lightning speeds now, your answers. Just collating the answers. Again, it is handy for a business analyst to know more modeling tools and techniques. Okay. And pushing out the answers to you guys. This is a super strong. So we've got a 72% of people who think this is a truth. Okay, it is handy for a business analyst to know more modeling tools and techniques. This is a truth. Okay, and what we mean by this is a number of different modeling tools. And modeling is kind of like the same as pictures speak 1,000 words. And often as a business analyst, we spend a lot of time writing documents. And I personally used to be a business analyst, and I can almost number you how many organizations I've written documents over 200 pages. And I'm sure to date, no one's read those documents. But I did it for the sake of doing it as a business analyst. And the idea here is, reality is, most people have an attention span of about 40 seconds to a minute. And most people ain't going to read every piece of requirement that you're writing, so you want to depict it in a different way, and you want to depict it in a model. The point of a model is that it's pictorial. It's harder to argue with what it means. So we've got the top left there being a sequence diagram, so it shows something going from start to end and a sequence of it and what gets passed through. That is a UML type of modeling, okay? So a unified modeling language. There are different types. Top right there, some of you might know this better, swim lanes or a BPMN diagram, okay? Again, a different type of swim lane, different type of modeling. Its whole point is to have different types of diagrams that might actually convey the same message. You want to tackle the same information from different ways so that everybody gets on the same page. The idea is sometimes that piece of document you've written, though it's brilliant and it's got all the requirements in there, you're not getting the message across. And key information that BA needs is to be able to get that information across. And a good way to do that is to go through some modeling techniques. This is more for an advanced BA, someone that's had years of experience and practice in business analysis. We do have advanced courses for these type of things where you go through modeling techniques and really hone in on ERD diagrams. So entity relationship diagrams, how to actually make sure that a mobile field is exactly 10 digits, and this mobile field is also related to the customer, and how it actually can't in any other way be argued about. So modeling ensures for a business analyst that it's a lot more black and white, okay, and it's a different way to convey your messages. So it's for a good BA, you should have many modeling techniques, tools into your kit bag, and whenever you see that your audience, your stakeholders might not be understanding the message, you just want to pull one out from your toolkit. You want to pull one of these out, you want to do a use case diagram, you want to do an activity diagram, you want to do a class diagram, you want to have different modeling tools and techniques, and this is more for your advanced BAs, people who have been working with business analysis for a few years, and they can understand and digest some of those to take your stakeholders through it as well. So some of your modeling tools. Okay. BA Mythbusting number 5 says, a business analyst are required irrespective of the type of project, even if it's Waterfall or Agile. A business analyst required irrespective of the type of project. Okay. Are you guys needed in both Waterfall and Agile projects? Business analysts are required irrespective of the type of project, whether it is Waterfall or Agile. Okay. Reason why I did use Waterfall or Agile instead of using words such as Scrum, etc., because they all fall under a banner. You might do Prince 2, you might do PMBOK, there's all these different types of methodologies and frameworks out there. I could probably be here for the next hour of us to list them all, so I kind of just umbrellaed it into Waterfall or Agile, any type of project really that you do. A BA is really required irrespective of the type. Okay. And according to you guys, let's push some results out. What did everybody say? Everybody's good. There are 66% of you saying that this is a truth. So we've said business analysts are required irrespective of the type of project, and this is a truth. Okay, and this is just to show you in both ways. Okay, on the left-hand side, this is what we call waterfall, being more stage by stage. Unfortunately for Winston Royce, who came up with the waterfall, he wrote a white paper back in the 70s. He said you should do that once, and you should actually repeat it. But in the 70s, he was working for IBM, and then they actually never repeated it because they ran out of money. And that's how he became the father of waterfall. But if we were to look at this and say, hey, when is the BA needed? Irrespective of which type, both the left-hand side and the right-hand side, where you loop through, either where you cycle through, okay, or you just do it stage by stage, those initiations, the initiation analysis and conceptual design, that's where you play heavily. Yes, I'm not saying you are just needed at the beginning. You are probably needed for the rest of it as well in the development lifecycle. This is software development lifecycle, this one in particular. And you are required throughout the lifecycle of any project. Okay, but you are heavily focused on the initiation, the analysis, and the conceptual designs, all those requirements writing. Because why? What does BAs really do? You cycle through the business analysis loop, which is your, according to the BABOK, here, you elicit information, you analyze it, you document it, you communicate it, and you cycle through that all the time. So irrespective of which type it is, whether you're building me a house, the same house, whether you're building it to me in Waterfall, or whether you're building it to me in Agile, the same house that you're building me, I will still need you guys. I still need you BAs to help me make sure that my requirements are documented correctly. You have my needs down on paper. You're helping me make sure you're analyzing my problem, and you're giving me a solution. Okay, so it is needed irrespective of which type of project it is. Okay, the next one we've got there, number 6, is that requirements should be smart, whilst user stories should be invest. We've all heard many times in the past that we've talked about requirements being smart. Okay, so are user stories invest? Okay, so again, the poll's open to you guys. Requirements should be smart, whilst user stories should be invest. Okay, I can see where answers are coming through. A few more in progress. I'll give a little bit more time. Okay, so requirements should be smart, whilst user stories should be invest. Okay, we've heard many times in the past we all should be writing smart requirements. We've had it almost drilled into us many times. Smart, we're going to go through what smart stands for and what invest stands for. And let's push some results out. Let's see what the results came out to be. Okay, 48% of you guys say that requirements with smart and user stories with invest, that is a truth. That's what you guys said for 48% of you. Few people there was on the fence about this one. This is a truth. We are going to go through what they do mean. So back in the days when you did build me a house in Waterfall, we call those BDUF projects. In other words, big design up front. You did spend lots of time with me sitting down and talking to me about my house, and you wanted to know exactly what it was. So you would write the requirements in SMART. And what happens is it has to be specific. So you would have to ask me exactly how many centimeters my window frames might be, how deep, how wide, how tall, what's centimeters from the ground. You need to be very specific. Okay. Then it had to be M, which is measurable. Okay, so the items into my house, into this blueprint of the house that you're writing me, have to be specific, followed by measurable. Then it had to be achievable. If you're going to put a window in somewhere and you're going to specify what that height is, and you're going to say where it is, it had to be achievable. It can't just be somewhere on the ceiling where you actually can't reach it and it's not big enough or small enough to put it onto that wall and it doesn't actually fit in with the plumbing, etc., or other things that could be there. So it had to also be achievable. The next one there would then tie in with the fact that it is realistic. You're not going to put a lot of little small windows everywhere because it's probably not going to be a good foundation for your wall. You're probably going to tell me maybe 1 or 2 windows maximum for that wall. So it had to be also realistic. And we talked a lot about traceable. Over the years, that T has changed a bit. Some organizations have changed it also to timely. Okay, so we have testable as well. So we've had the T changed a few times. This is just according to the BABOK at this point in time. SMART being specific. So your requirements have to be very specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and traceable. So you had to do all that for me when it came to a waterfall house. As times has moved and we've got different types of ways of running projects. You might tell me, Louisa, we're going to build you that same house, but we're going to build it in Agile. And when we build it in Agile, we're going to write user stories. Okay, user stories is still a requirement, but it's written from the perspective of a user. So as a house owner, I want a kitchen so that I can cook dinner every night. Okay, so I would put it into my perspective as the user, so as the end person, the end perspective. Okay, and what happens there is now user stories aren't going to be as specific as it used to be, because when you came to doing an Agile project with me, you're doing it as EDUF. So it's enough design up front. You're not doing a BDUF project where you spend months with me doing big design up front. You're doing EDUF, enough design up front. So you do enough to have a picture of my house. In other words, you might have a vague idea that's going to be a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 1-story house. Okay, that's a vague idea, but you don't have the full details yet. So in that terms, you can't actually write a SMART requirement because it can't be specific. It's hard for you to make it measurable, achievable, realistic, and all those at that point in time, because I won't be able to give you the exact dimensions up front. I only give you enough. So you know there will be a window of some sort in there, but you don't know exactly what that window size will be. So what happens in Invest is that the user story has to be independent. Okay, so there's going to be different user stories for living rooms, bedrooms, kitchens. They're all going to be independent. They will start to be negotiable. So you might come to me and come back and go, you know what, if you put this type of lock versus this type of lock, it's going to mean this type of value to you. We talk a lot more in the value sense. What do I get out of it? So we negotiate a lot more on our requirements in that sense. V has to be valuable. Everything that I get as a stakeholder, as a user, as the person asking it has to have some sort of value coming back. E for the estimable, that piece of work needs to be some shape or form you can put an estimate against, even if it's a t-shirt size, even if it's small, medium, large. Has to be small enough for the work to be executed on its own, and then testable. That piece of user story that you're doing, that standalone piece, has to be enough to be testable. So we call user stories in Invest. Original requirements that you know back in the days, traditional requirements, are SMART, and you may hear more and more terminology these days as user stories needs to be Invest. Okay, on to our number 7. There is no such thing as being an internationally certified Agile BA. Opening the polls to you guys. There is no such thing as being an internationally certified Agile BA. Okay. There is no such thing as being an internationally certified Agile BA. You've heard me talk a little bit about Waterfall, a little bit about Agile, and in both instances, I have said we do need BAs. You guys are still important in both worlds. It is just as important to have business analysts in Waterfall and in Agile, but can you actually get certified, and can you be internationally certified as an Agile BA? Can you internationally become a certified Agile BA? Okay, let's push some answers out and see what you guys have said. Was this a truth or a myth? We have a 54% of people said that this is a myth. And then we've got the 13% that says it's truth and some on the fence. We've got there is no such thing as being an internationally certified Agile BA. This is a drumroll myth. This is a myth. This is the international certification that I'm showing in front of you guys right now. You can get internationally certified as an Agile BA. So here in the left-hand side, I call that one a snowman diagram. In this particular certification, you will be at the end of it either foundation certified or practitioner level certified. There's 2 levels of this certification. You can get certified at foundation level or at practitioner level, and it talks about all the different roles inside Agile. And on the left hand side, you'll notice that you guys, the lovely business analyst, is right in the middle. You're the neck. You're the neck of the snowman is what I call this, and the head of the snowman is kind of like what you guys will know better as a steering committee or as a board. And you as a neck is you steer that steering committee pretty much. You're the joining part between the people who make decisions, your board, your steering committee, down to the body, who are your doers, your teams that you work with. You've got the best of both worlds. You've got a foot in both worlds, really, as an Agile BA. Your skills are still needed. And what they talk about in this particular certification is what does requirements actually look like from a BA's perspective in an Agile world. You're still using the same skills. You're still using all those modeling techniques that you also know. It's about how do you apply it and at what times do you apply it. Because you're no longer doing it all up front. You're not writing big business requirements documents up front, and you're not doing smart requirements either. You're looking at invest user stories, and you're kind of also doing little smaller chunks of analysis as it comes up. So the same house that you guys were building me, instead of writing everything about the kitchen, you do the cabinets user story when you get to cabinets. And once you finish with cabinets, you might then do wet works, which is all your plumbings. Then you might do all the appliances. So you might split them out because in Invest, we said it's also small enough and independent enough. Each of those work is small enough. And Agile BA, as a certification, will teach you all of those components, how to apply your same skills in an Agile world. And Agile BA, again, 2 levels, foundation level and at a practitioner level. It is internationally recognized. This is a certification you can take internationally across the world as an Agile BA. So this is through APMG. Okay. Number 8, we've got 8th one that says, the next step in career progression for a business analyst can only be a project manager. Okay, so we've grown up being told that if you're a BA, eventually you're just going to become a PM. So the next step in career progression for a business analyst can only be a project manager. Okay. Next step in career progression for a business analyst can only be a project manager. Okay. This is very strong answers, I can see. This is a very quick one as well. This one was the one on the invite, to my knowledge. The next step in career progression for business analysts can only be a project manager. Okay. The results are coming through. Let me push them through to everybody, and we will be able to see. 70% of you guys think that this is a myth. Okay, 70% of you guys and only a small 2% think that this is a truth. This is a drumroll myth. You do not have to. When I grow up as a BA, I'm going to only become a PM, and that's not true. If you wanted to stay in the BA world, okay, if you wanted to just stay in the BA world, which is perfectly fine. Some people have that great ability as a business analyst. It is different skill sets to be a project manager. So if you've got strong skills as a business analyst, stay in that world. You don't have to become a project manager. And in the IIBA, what you see in front of you, this is from the IIBA, and you will also find this information on the Australian chapter of the IIBA. It is about 4 different levels of certification for BA professionals. And you've noticed the first one I've talked a little bit about, which was the entry level. Second one's for people who've got 2 to 3 years experience. Next level is for 5 years experience. The next level is for people who've got over 10 years experience. These are your senior BAs, your lead BAs, your BA managers. This is still a world for you to progress through. So there are different levels of business analysts as well, and they show you that. You might progress up, okay, this is an up-down path, or you might also say to me, Louisa, I actually want to do a left-right jump, and that is possible too between a BA world, because some of your non-core competency areas are in what I would say on the left-hand side. This is just a suggestion as well, is facilitation. Business analyst runs a lot of workshops. You run a lot of meetings, workshops, where you need to facilitate those workshops and be independent to facilitate those. So it's about what if I wanted to become a professional facilitator? And on the left-hand side, this is a certification to be an internationally recognized facilitator. This is all the tools and techniques on how do you actually get to a consensus in your meetings? How do you ensure the priorities across your stakeholders are all agreed and they're the true priorities? How do you meet those outcomes? So that's what facilitation is all about. How do I make sure I stay independent of the outcome and I actually make sure I meet that outcome? You don't want to be one of those BAs where you run a workshop and you come out 2 hours later and go, I've just wasted 2 hours of my life. 2 hours that I can't get back. You want to make sure that you've got tools and techniques for those, and those are things that a facilitator, a good facilitator would also do. And then on the right-hand side there, another one that is quite similar for business analysts is being a change manager. Why I say that? Because a lot of business analysts bring on change. Okay, when you work on a project, when you deliver a problem and you've got a 2B world from an as-is to a 2B, that means there is change coming. And you naturally actually do it without you realizing that you are a change lead, you're a change manager, and what that's a whole different world out there as well. So what does it mean to be a change manager? How do you actually look at dealing with the resistance, the blockers, the communications? So you could perhaps go down that avenue of becoming a change manager. You've got the ability to do all of the business analysis. Well, stay as a business analyst, go up the ranks in progression path there, or you can do a side jump where you become facilitators or change managers. Both of these internationally recognized. Both of these are recognized from their own professional associations, similar to the IIBA, so their own associations. Okay. So if you wanted to find out more about some of these courses that I have quickly mentioned, if you do go on our DLS website, you will find courses there. And then if you go into the process space on the left-hand side when you do the drop-down box, you'll find all of the ones we've talked about today under the business analysis area. And the point is for you to understand that there is a lot of material for business analysts. You might often hear that there seems to be more material for PMs, but it's not true for the BA world. It's quite as much certifications and internationally recognized things that you can just do as well, and to keep your tools and techniques up to date and have more skills. So these are some of the upcoming ones that we do have. We have 7 offices around Australia, which means that you are able to come and do a BA course with us from anywhere locally. And one thing that I do have to mention for staying online for this long and listening to my myth busting, we are going to do a series of these myth bustings for the next 4 months. One every month to the end of financial year pretty much. So we're going to do one March, April, May, and June. If you attend all 4 and you put in the code MythBust, you will get a $300 voucher off us to attend one of our process courses. So that can include you saying that you might want to be a change manager, a facilitator, an Agile BEA. So you can get a $300 voucher off us to come and do one of our courses with us if you put in the code MythBust and attend all 4 of the future series. The series will all be on mythbusting. We're going to be mythbusting on all the different roles, so roles such as project managers, facilitators, and change managers. So again, you can already register if you wish for the upcoming one in April, which is the facilitator one. We're going to mythbust a bit on facilitators. Okay. Any questions?
Well, thank you so much for that, Lulu. I mean, I got a lot out of that personally. But what we do have is some questions from the audience. And the first one comes from Donovan.
Yep.
Okay, so here's the question. If BAs are specifying solutions, do they need to have a technical understanding of the solution?
So your solution is still not a how as in which technology. Your solution is about if you needed to do something quicker, you might suggest to look at your as-is process and do what we call a crack on it, what you want to keep, what you want to remove, anything you want to add, anything you want to change. So your solution, your recommendation is to go, actually, I want to remove this part. I want to add in something here and I want to change something here. But you don't actually specify this is the technology that you should buy and this technology will do that. You're still doing the what in particular are you changing? So that's the type of recommendation that you're providing when it comes to your solution.
Thanks for that, Lulu. Donovan, I hope that answers your question. The next question comes from Mark. How do you handle if business does not know what they want during a requirement gathering?
Requirement gathering workshop. So whether I would
That's
actually
correct,
first,
yeah.
So I would actually first say you should actually get them into a room and kind of. What I always say a good BA would do is kind of do a lot of your homework. So you would actually do a lot of your legwork. You go look at past projects, perhaps what current documentation you already got. Put something in front of them so that they've got a baseline or a starting point. Because the hardest is that you don't want your stakeholders to go finger in the air and go, wish list, this is everything. You want to give them a baseline to start somewhere. So kind of go down a certain direction, but not too much where you give them, this is the answer and this is where we want you to be, but you want to talk about, hey, this is the homework I've done, I can't take a look at a baseline, this is our starting point, give them a few options to play with, you want to get them into a workshop. This is where I would highly recommend you to do something like facilitation, so you've got a bit of those tools and techniques on how to run workshops in different ways, to stimulate ideas in different ways. You might do a brain dumping session, you might sit them and cluster those type of ideas, so it's all about idea generating at the beginning. And let them be open to those ideas, whatever ideas it comes to, and then you can go through the process of deciding whether that is in or out of scope, whether it's actually needed or not.
Thank you, Lulu. Adam, welcome to the webinar. So Adam asked, BA role seems to have similar roles to an architect. How are you able to differentiate the two?
Yeah, I think that's often more a play on words when it comes to job titles, because many organizations start to blur those. And when I see architects more in the designing world, where there is TOGAF and they're just designing it and they're really just putting a blueprint together. So in the same house that you guys are building me, I would expect my business analyst to write down what this house would look like. But I would expect an architect to draw up the blueprint based on what the business analyst has put together. I don't expect the business analyst to be drawing this full-on blueprint about whether it's structurally sound, as to whether this house will collapse or not, and whether you can actually build it, and whether the plumbing joints and all those details will actually work. I see that more as the architects that should be deciding that. And architects should also understand the standards. In other words, if your organization is a Microsoft shop, that they should be recommending a Microsoft product. It won't be an Oracle product. It won't be an IBM product. They will decide what, in same as the house, in that suburb, that particular plumbing works better because of the fact that it's sand as the base. So that's where I would see a little bit of the architects is more on the how, and then your BAs are still focused on the what. And organization to organization, it can vary on that borderline gap of what your organization expects.
Fantastic. So, Louisa, here's a very interesting question that came through from Christina. So, are BAs part of the boardroom meetings or daily Scrum meetings?
Yes, I would always say so. Your daily Scrum meetings, if your BA is genuinely wearing a BA hat, in other words, a business analyst, and they're part of the team to write those user stories with the team, then yes, they definitely should be at the stand-ups talking about what they did yesterday, what they're doing today, and any blockers. If the BA is wearing a different hat at that point, in other words, they're wearing a more managerial hat, they're wearing a hat where it's about being on the steering committee or on the board, then no, they shouldn't be talking. You're only talking as part of stand-ups for if you are part of a team.
Thank you for that, Louisa. So we've got another question that just came in from Soon. Welcome to the course, Soon. So does the industry make a clear distinction between BAs and business system analysts?
Not as good as they could. I can definitely admit that as well. I think it's more of the new era of technology, and technology has changed quite quickly over the years. So I think in the upcoming years, it might be clearer, but right now, whenever you see job ads, it usually is a business analyst job ad, but even though when you start having more conversations, it seems to be more system analyst prone. So it's getting awareness out there as well and having more of those conversations. It will develop over the years, but right now, not particularly great. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you for that, guys. You still have an opportunity to actually pop in your questions into the question and answer panel or chat panel. We'll take them there. But I think we've got a few more questions that's just rolling through, Louisa.
Okay.
So Gary, so this is the first time I've heard of Agile BEA. Would I be able to attend even with no Agile experience?
Yeah, I'm not going to say that it will be easy, okay? So if you have no Agile experience whatsoever and you come to do Agile BA with us, it will require you to do a little bit more homework. It will require you to do a lot of pre-work, and there is some assumed knowledge. But if you've already got a lot of business analyst skills, so you've already been a BA for a little bit, it would at least help, and your instructor will be able to get you through the material. Yes.
Fantastic. And we still have time for some questions. So I apologize if I pronounced your name wrong, but Taliga, she or he has a question with regards to facilitation certificate.
Yes.
Can that be done as a professional facilitator where organization employ you, or just as a facilitator? How would this work?
So a combination. So you can come and get the certification yourself, which then would become a foundation and practitioner certification, and you'll be an internationally recognized facilitator, and organizations can hire you for those facilitation services. At DLS, we also do have the certified trainers in facilitation. In other words, if you as an organization have had meetings time and time again and you're not getting that outcome, you could actually come to us and use one of our facilitated, certified facilitators to try these services to understand whether it is for you. So you could try that out as well. The certification, foundation, and practitioner level, you could become an independent facilitator. So some people do that as a full-time job. They go around to organizations just helping with facilitation of large workshops. And what I mean by large workshops, you might see conferences of about 200 to 2,000 people where they facilitate those, so that you can actually become a facilitator that way.
That's great to know, Louisa. We've got a lot of questions coming through now, so that's fantastic. So Cheryl asks, what is the rough breakdown currently of businesses using Agile versus ITIL versus Prince2 versus Waterfall methodologies?
Yeah, so that's a hard one to answer, so I don't want to give numbers out where numbers aren't actually available at this point in time. I think in the future it's going to get easier to kind of start looking at more of these numbers because there's going to only be one exam providers in the future, which means that it could be easier for us to start looking at Prince2 versus Agile versus Scrum versus et cetera, et cetera. Right now, it's all done by a lot of different providers, so therefore there's no one number that can be pulled as to ratios. As to the market of Australia, Australia is a little bit ramping up, I would say, towards the Agile, so towards your Leans and your Scrums and your XPs and your DSDNs. It's heading more towards that way, but it's not a one-size-fits-all. So organizations shouldn't think that they're either going to go Waterfall or Agile. It's not a one-size-fits-all. There are projects that are better for Waterfall and projects that are better for Agile. And ITIL itself, again, ITIL is more about end-to-end IT shop, not about the way that you run a project. So that's not a project methodology. That's just about how you run end-to-end your IT shop.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. Cheryl, I hope that answers your question. And Mark came back with another question. So he's asked, is BA needed in Scrum?
Scrum doesn't officially have a job title with that. Scrum states 3 job titles, which is a Scrum Master, a Product Owner, and the team. I would always suggest that this is me being a Scrum coach on the ground. When we are coaching organizations to go down the Scrum path, we would always say you should have those skills of a business analyst somewhere within your team. If you don't want to officially call that person a business analyst, that's fine, but the responsibilities and the skills still need to be carried within somebody within the team. So with those BA skills, BA responsibilities still needs to be embedded with the team, whether you divide that up amongst a few different people because you've got people who've got the ability to be BAs, but there's no official title. I agree, I know it doesn't say that, but I would still always say the role of the BA is needed. How you divide that up is up to your organization, but it has to be embedded in your team.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. Christina came in with a question. You mentioned that BA liaises between decision makers and doers. How can BAs involved in the lifestyle beyond the ambition?
So that particular one was in conversation about the Agile BA, so being the middle, kind of the middle between the head of the snowman and the body, because what Agile BA states is that the person who writes the business case is actually the BA, okay? So maybe in Waterfall we might have said the PM writes it, but in Agile BA it states that the BA writes the business case and they own the business case as well. So actually responsibility and accountability is still with the steering committee, but the BA is heavily involved in that, and that's what they say about the linkage there. And so it's different to being the middleman between the business and IT. So sometimes we often say that as well between a business analyst. What they're really focusing here on is that it's only in Agile BA that you will be the middle between the head, what they call the steering committee or your board, and with your body, which is your doers. Because the whole point is your body doesn't actually have to hear or get updates from the head. You've got a central point of that, and that's the BA's role. So it's for a different type of framework as well. So it's more towards Agile BA.
Thank you, Louisa. So another question has just come in. Are there any suggestions about useful resources for BA?
So if you go onto the IIBA, the australiaiba.org, it will actually give you some of the information there as well. So I always say go with your professional association, whichever one it is for whichever area you are. And right now this is business analysis, so go towards IIBA and you'll be able to get most of the good information and good sources from the IIBA.
Fantastic. And I think that we've got another question coming through, and that might be our last question for the day. Okay. So the question is, I am an experienced business analyst and wondering if you have any courses that may be more advanced.
Okay, yeah, so we do have, if you go onto our website as well, we do segregate them into kind of like an overview, foundation, as well as advanced. So if you are the more advanced people, then you can go take a look at the advanced BA certs. You could also consider doing certification, facilitation, change management, all the other tools and techniques that you would actually need to be an advanced BA.
Okay. Fantastic. Thank you so much for that, Louisa. I think that all the questions have now been answered. So, ladies and gentlemen, as you leave the sessions today, there will be a short survey for today's webinar. And if you can please complete the survey, that would be appreciated, as your insights will actually help us shape future events. We will definitely send you a link of the recording of the event within the next couple of weeks. But if you do require further information, please don't hesitate to contact us. And, you know, our website is www.ddls.com.au for all of the course information. Now, so without further ado, so on behalf of DDLS, I thank you for joining us for today's session. Have a wonderful afternoon, everyone.
Thank you. See you all next time for more myth busting.
Thank you, Lulu. Have a good night, everyone. Bye.